What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with the first video of the 2021 NFL season. You heard that right. 2021 NFL season. Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Bucks, to Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans, Super Bowl 55 champs. Congrats, but we're already on to a new season here on the Bottom Line View, and that means it's time for some tier rankings, some power rankings, ranking the bottom of the league all the way to the top of the league, giving you a sense of where I'm at with your team, how I feel about your team entering NFL free agency, entering the NFL draft, and the overall NFL offseason. Let's rank every team in football for 2021. Let's go. Before I give you my 2021 early, way too early in fact, tier rankings, make sure you do spike that like button, and of course don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more NFL content just like this. 2021, the biggest season of the Bottom Line View ever, so make sure you do subscribe. Here we go. The way too early 2021 NFL tier rankings. As you can see, we have 5 tiers. Starting off with the bottom tier, the worst teams in football. The bottom of the barrel. The teams that I believe will be the absolute worst. Trash in 2021. You then go a step up to the below average teams, who they're not quite garbage, but they're not also in contention. They're stuck in that awkward spot. The third tier is the borderline playoff team tier. You could also call this the in the hunt tier. These teams are close to playoff contention, close to being in the playoffs, but I just don't quite trust them for whatever reason. The number 2 tier, playoff team tier. This tier, good teams, borderline really good teams, but they're not great teams. They're still missing 1 or 2 things. They'll be in the playoffs in my opinion, but I'm not quite sure I see them as a Super Bowl champion. And of course, the contending tier. The contenders, the Super Bowl contenders. These teams, it's simple, can win the Super Bowl, guys. So let's kick it off with the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are a team in 2021 that I feel pretty confident about. I feel like I have a good feel for them. The one concern I have about them is they've lost again another coordinator. And my concern with Tennessee, last season they lost Dean Pease. Phenomenal coordinator for them defensively. Their defense falls apart. They lose Arthur Smith this offseason. He leaves to Atlanta. He's their new head coach. Great hiring by Atlanta, in my opinion, but that's a significant loss. I like Tannehill. I don't love Tannehill. I love Derrick Henry. I love A.J. Brown. I love aspects of this team. I'm a big Mike Vrabel guy. I do not see them as a contender at this moment. Something has me a little nervous about them to take a step back if they don't improve this defense in the offseason. But what they've done recently suggests they will be a playoff team. So I'll say they're a playoff team for now, but my opinion definitely could change. It could change on all these teams, guys. It's way too early. It's like the day after the Super Bowl. I have no idea what these teams are going to look like. Speaking of a team that I have no idea what they're going to look like in 2021, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, their best aspect, their best part is Brian Flores. To me, he was the coach of the year. I understand it went to Stefanski, well-deserved, but my guy was Brian Flores because I think he really squeezed the most he possibly could out of this roster. I'm not confident in the quarterback situation. I'm not a Tua guy, never have been, probably never will be unless he proves me wrong at some point. So far, he is not. The quarterback situation this year wasn't good overall with Fitzpatrick or Tua. The offensive line still needs a lot of help and work. And they don't got a lot of explosive weapons at wide receiver, running back, tight end, and all of that. Defensively, they're pretty good, if not very good. Special teams, they're phenomenal. I'm not sure if they can repeat some of the things they did defensively, special teams wise, to win some of the games they did in 2020. So it makes me nervous about where to put them on the tier rankings here. I just don't trust Tua, and if that's their quarterback in 2021, I don't believe they have enough offensively to get to the playoffs once again. So I think Fins fans might be a little disappointed by my ranking, but I'm going to give you the truth, guys. The Cleveland Browns. The Browns have a very good offense with a quarterback that I'm not in love with in Baker Mayfield, but he did prove me wrong to a certain degree. Played very well at the end of the year. I think that carries over into 2021. They should be getting Odell back, and if they don't, they'll trade him for other assets. That offensive line is elite and should stay together. The defense needs a lot of work, a lot of depth, help in the secondary, help at the linebacking core. But I think if they can add a few depth pieces on defense, they'll be an even better team than they were. I could see them being a borderline contender, but Baker is still not an elite guy to me. He is probably somewhere within 12 to 16 range at quarterback, so I'm going to put them at the playoff team tier. I love Kevin Stefanski, though. I think he is a phenomenal offensive play caller. The Jacksonville Jags will be getting the number 1 pick, and we know who it's going to be. It's going to be their new quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. At least 99% sure it's going to be him. Jacksonville actually sneakily has a lot of young talent that they can build upon, but it is a new coaching staff, a new regime, a new culture, a new quarterback, a lot of new. And that is going to be very difficult to overcome all at the same time. I think Jacksonville has a chance to surprise a lot of people in 2021, but given that there's likely to be another shortened offseason with not a lot of practice time, I believe Jacksonville will probably just be in the bottom tier once again. They feel to me this year like the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow. I like their potential, but I just don't see it actually working out in the first season. So I'm optimistic. I just don't see it right now. The Detroit Lions have let go of their franchise quarterback, their best player in Matthew Stafford, and they're looking towards the future. This is a team that lacks a lot of talent in a lot of places. Kenny Golladay is a free agent. They have to figure out the future of this team and build a lot from the foundation up. I see Detroit as one of the bottom 5 teams in football next year. I'm not a believer in Jared Goff. I actually think he's going to be pretty bad. Detroit, hopefully you guys prove me wrong, but it's going to be a year of losing in 2021. The Minnesota Vikings are a team that I've always said you need to take a step back before you can take a step forward. The Vikings drafted a whole bunch of players last offseason for their secondary to grow on that defense. Some of them have worked out, some of them have not. We'll see if they can grow on defense, which was really the foundation of why they were so good with Zimmer for the last few years. Kirk Cousins is a borderline, very good quarterback. He's at least borderline top 10 to me. They have one of the best backs in the league, one of the best running games in the league. They could certainly improve that offensive line. A dynamic duo at wide receiver, a duo at tight end that's pretty good. I think Minnesota is going to be better than they were this year. I think they take a step forward. I think Minnesota ends up in the playoffs as of right now. We'll see what they do in free agency, how that cap situation works out. But they didn't even have their best defensive player, arguably, in Danielle Hunter all year, and he's going to be back, so that's huge. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they just won the Super Bowl. They are arguably I don't even want to say arguably, they are the best roster in the league, and I think they are the best team in the league, period. They have a very young, improving secondary that I think is going to grow in 2021 to even better levels. They have the best front seven in football with the best linebacking duo in football. They're going to have to sign Levante David and find a way to keep Shaq Barrett and bring back Ndamukong Suh. All those things are crucial, but I believe they'll be able to do most of it, if not all of it. They might lose Leonard Fournette, but I don't think that would be a significant loss. He feels like he wants to come back just like AB does, on a short-term, low-cost contract. Even Mike Evans said, I'll take less money just to re-sign Chris Godwin. So it feels like this team's all in with Tom Brady, at least for one more year. I see them as the best team in football at this current moment, as they deservedly so are, because they just won the dang Super Bowl. They are a true contender regardless of really anything. Tom Brady doesn't look like he's slowing down. This is a very good coaching staff. I think they're going to be great. I think they might be better next year, actually. San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are interesting to me because I'm not a Jimmy G guy. If they remain with Jimmy G, it's concerning because I'm not sure about his health, and I'm not sure he's actually even that great. Kyle Shanahan is arguably my favorite coach in the whole league, and I do have true faith in him. I also have faith in him when he has a defense on the other side that's healthy, which was not all this year. I really like some of their aspects of their offense, like their weaponry. George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, special trio there. They can run the ball, they can pass it, I believe. If they get a young quarterback that could ascend and be really good, maybe a rookie, I think they could actually get by with a rookie given Kyle's prowess at offensive play calling. I think the health of the defense puts them back into playoff team territory. So for now, I'm going to say they're a playoff team. The Atlanta Falcons, they're really interesting because we don't know who's the quarterback. I don't know if Matt Ryan's going to be there. I don't know if he's going to be back, if he's going to leave, if he's going to get traded, what he'll get traded for. It feels like he's going to remain. It feels like Julio will remain. And if they do, I actually think Atlanta could take major strides forward with a new head coach that I very much like. Dean Pease, a coordinator that I love on defense, which they have not had a good defense in a long time. He could make them substantially better. Right now, because of their question marks regarding their quarterback situation, I'm going to have them just as a borderline playoff team. But Atlanta wouldn't surprise me if they snuck into playoff team territory because Matt Ryan can still play, and I do believe that their defense will take significant strides forward. Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, to me, that's a tough one because I think a lot of people would say they're a contender, and I think you could certainly make a good argument for that. And I honestly believe that they probably are. I'm thinking about this. But I really look at Baltimore. I love Lamar. I think he gets scrutiny for very weird reasons when he has lacked a lot of weapons and talent around him offensively, especially this past year. I think if they improve the wide receiver, tight end positions, I think this team could be really dynamic because they already have a defense that's built for at least this year to be very good once again, and they kept Don Martindale. I don't know why nobody's hired this guy. Baltimore, to me, is a contender. I think they have very good coaching. I think they have a very good quarterback, and I think they will, once again, have a very good defense. I think the only difference for them is they might add a receiver, which would only help them. The Chicago Bears. The Bears are another very interesting team. A huge question mark at the quarterback position. It doesn't appear it will be Trubisky or Nick Foles. It could be Carson Wentz, potentially. I don't think Allen Robinson is back, so that is an absolute huge blow to them. Their defense is solid. I don't think it's spectacular. They're getting a little old in some key positions that I'm not comfortable about. I don't love their coaching staff. I think it's okay. I think Chicago is a below average team. Maybe they could slide as high as a playoff team, depending on what happens this offseason. But they have just so many question marks that I see them as a below average team. I think they were lucky to make the playoffs this year due to an easy schedule and being 8-8 and sliding into a weak NFC. It will be a weak NFC once again, but I just don't see it. Cincinnati, this is another interesting one. So Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, I think, is a baller. I believe in Joe Burrow. I believe in the talent. I believe in the leader. I believe in the person. I don't believe in their coach. I like a lot of their offensive talent. I think they significantly need to work on this offensive line, and I believe they will. I think their defense has very good aspects to it that they'll probably have to look to re-sign. I believe William Jackson is a free agent, but Jesse Bates, maybe best free safety in the league. Carl Lawson was phenomenal this year. Some of their players are getting older and leaving, like potentially Geno Atkins. They brought in Mike Daniels. That didn't really work out. Carlos Dunlap got traded. Some of their old regime and familiar faces have gone. But I think Cincinnati will take a step forward this year just because Joe Burrow is a baller. So I'll put them in the below average territory. I think that is improving from last year where they were one of the worst teams in the league, even with Joe Burrow. So right now, below average, they need to improve in free agency and throughout the draft, and then they'll probably move up. The Dallas Cowboys. I'm probably thinking they will re-sign Dak Prescott. So given that they re-signed Dak Prescott, they have one of the best offenses in the league, if not, when healthy, across the board, arguably the best offense in the league. I'm going to say that. They have a great running back. They have a great quarterback. They have a great O-line when healthy. They have phenomenal receiving core. They have everything that you want offensively and a good young play caller. Defensively, they need a lot of work. Now, they switched their D coordinator. I think that will help. I think the fact that McCarthy has another year to work with this team and his system, I think that will help. I think they do need to improve their secondary, but I think this roster is almost there. And because of that, I see Dallas as a playoff team. I don't quite see them as a contender because I'm a little nervous about last year being so high on this team and being disappointed. But this could truly be the year that Dallas actually takes a step forward. Because when you look at all the pieces, as long as Dak is still there, the NFC is very weak, and this team could make a run in this conference, especially their division. The Houston Texans, I don't even know if Deshaun Watson is going to be there. Even if he is, I don't know how much movement they're going to be able to add players and grow this roster. I think at least one of J.J. Watt or Deshaun Watson will be gone, if not both, which that's two leadership pieces and two great players that would be gone. I see the Texans right now as one of the worst teams in the league. Like, if Deshaun Watson is there, okay, they're below average. But let's just say Deshaun gets traded. They are one of the worst. And even with Deshaun this year, they struggled to win any games. The Indianapolis Colts, the Colts lost their quarterback in Phillip Rivers, but I think he's easily replaceable. Not hating on Phillip Rivers, but I just think there are a lot of quarterbacks out there that could produce the way that Phillip Rivers has been able to produce at his age as of late. I love their roster. I think it's very solid. It doesn't have really any weaknesses, but they could add some great talent to it. They could really take this receiving core over the top if they add a true number one, similarly to the way that Buffalo did with Stephon Diggs. If they can find like an Allen Robinson, a Kenny Golladay, a piece like that, a number one wide receiver for them, that would be significant. I think that would upgrade their odds of being very good. But given that they didn't get Matthew Stafford, and it's looking like maybe Matt Ryan could be on the table, but I'm not a Carson Wentz guy, so I wouldn't like that move. Sam Darnold, I'd be probably happier about as a Colts fan, but I don't think that puts them into playoff team territory. I think Sam Darnold on this team, maybe they sneak into the offs, but I'm just not quite sold. I think the Colts are like a borderline playoff team just because I really don't know who their quarterback is. They legitimately don't have a quarterback, so I just don't know really where to fit them at the moment. I think they have a playoff roster, but their quarterback and their wide receiver situation has me uncomfortable right now. The LA Rams, speaking of adding a quarterback, they have added Matthew Stafford, my second favorite quarterback in all of football, and a phenomenal talent, phenomenal player, phenomenal leader that will upgrade this team substantially inside the locker room and on the field from an offensive perspective. You have to expect defensive regression if you're a Rams fan, as defenses typically regress each and every season, especially when they're the best in the league. But you do have Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. As long as they stay healthy, they should still be good on that side of the ball. Andrew Whitworth, will he stick around or will he retire? That is also a concern on the offensive line. But Sean McVay is a phenomenal coach, and I think he'll figure things out. I think this team is going to be very good because of what Stafford brings to the table. I'm going to put them in the contending category right now. I can see this totally backfiring, and I may totally change my mind depending on what they do for the rest of the offseason. But they went all in for a reason. They believe this is a Super Bowl team, and I'll ride with Sean McVay if he believes that. The LA Chargers. The Chargers are a team extremely talented. I think they substantially improved at the head coaching position, getting the LA Rams defensive coordinator. I really think Justin Herbert is going to be a superstar if he isn't already. A lot of their pieces will remain intact offensively. They have to maybe look to re-sign Hunter Henry if they want to, but I think you could improve this offensive line, improve that secondary, who's lost some of their key pieces over the last couple of years. Hopefully, Derwin James can finally return, and this team should be back in the playoffs. This is a team that I look out for as a potential dark horse because of the rise of Justin Herbert. He is that good, but I'm not quite that confident yet. So I'm going to say they are a playoff team right now. That's one that could change at the moment, but I'll tell you this, the AFC is probably looking like having more playoff teams than the NFC just based on my tier rankings. But the Chargers are a team that I love their talent. I love the head coach addition. I love Herbert, man. Kansas City Chiefs in that AFC West just lost the Super Bowl. A huge, devastating loss for them. It's going to be tough to overcome, but if there's a quarterback and a team and a talent pool and a coach that I believe in to overcome it, Kansas City possesses all of that to get over the Super Bowl curse. Now, I do believe they have many more holes than people want to think. I think they need to improve the interior of the offensive line and possibly even right tackle if Mitchell Schwartz does not return. I think they need to improve, probably get rid of Sammy Watkins and add a number 2 wide receiver in there. I think they need to improve their linebacking position. I think they need to improve their defensive line and even their corner position. So the Chiefs have many more holes than a lot of people would make you believe, but I have the Chiefs as a contender because they have arguably the best quarterback in the league and arguably the best coach in the league, and that's enough to put yourself in the contending position. The New Orleans Saints. The Saints are a very good roster from top to bottom. Now, the question is, with their cap situation, which is absolutely devastating, how are they going to be able to remain this talented? And it's going to be tough to do. I don't think they'll be able to. I think they'll lose some key contributors on offense and especially on defense. It's going to be challenging, but Sean Payton's a great coach. I think overall their staff is excellent coaching-wise, defensive, offensive, all around. And they got good ownership, good GM. I believe in this front office. I believe in this organization, this culture as a whole. I think Jameis coming in there as their quarterback, if that's who they want to have, will be better than people think, I think. But he won't be Drew Brees, in my opinion, from multiple perspectives, not just on the field, but off of it. I think Michael Thomas coming back healthy will be huge. Kamara, of course, in his prime. Offensive line's arguably the best in the game. New Orleans will be pretty good, but given that Jameis is their quarterback and they're going to lose some talent, I at least project they will, I'm going to say they're just a borderline playoff team. I don't quite see them being in the playoffs at this moment right now, but that could totally change. The New York Giants. The Giants are a really interesting team. I think the Giants have significant potential. They nearly made the playoffs this year in the NFC East, a division that was completely up for grabs, and they nearly grabbed it. They'll get Saquon back. Hopefully he can remain healthy because he is a special player. Daniel Jones, I'm a little higher on than most people. I think he can make plays. He needs to continue to learn to protect that football. But again, another offseason of building this offensive line is going to be huge. The defense was already good last year, and I think could only improve this offseason if they add like a pass rushing type. I like Joe Judge a lot. Generally, I like the coaching staff. I think the Giants are a borderline playoff team with a lot of potential that could maybe even make the jump into playoff January football. The Philadelphia Eagles are another fascinating team, but I think the Philadelphia Eagles are a team that could take a step back before they take a step forward. I think they're looking to trade Carson Wentz. I think they might be looking to revamp this roster, make it younger, get a new young nucleus in the locker room, and revamp that core because they are getting older. You know, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, all those guys are getting up there in age, and I think it's time that they add some youth to the locker room. So I think the Eagles are not going to be a bad team, but just kind of like below average. I think that's what they were this year, and I think that's what they'll remain, even though they might improve at quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers. No idea what's going on with Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know how much better they can be this year. I think they probably regress. They're overall just division is going to be much tougher, much more difficult of a road, given Joe Burrow will be there. The Ravens should probably be better this year, and the Browns should be better. So on paper, that division is just very difficult. You see Ben probably regressing from a physical standpoint. He seemingly regressed throughout this season. Their offensive line was a huge weakness. They need to revamp that. It's very old, but they have a lot of awkward contracts to work with. The defense played about as good as it could for the last 2 years. I don't see it being any better. And some of those players, again, are getting kind of older. Joe Hayden, Hayward, etc. So the Steelers, to me, I don't think they're going to be a bad team. I see them as like a below average team. I think they're going to be 7-9, 6-10. I think you're going to see a significant drop from this team if Ben doesn't stay at the same level. We'll see what happens. They're going to lose Juju. They're probably going to lose some aspects. I think they need to work on that locker room, the overall culture of the team. I have not been a fan of. And right now, I'm not a fan of the Steelers. But they're definitely one of the teams I'd put on the list of could totally change my opinion by the start of the season. Denver Broncos don't have a quarterback right now. And because of that, I put them in the worst category. I feel like they have a pretty talented team. They have a lot of young players on offense that I really like. They have a lot of players on defense that I really like. And I think they have a decent coaching staff. But they don't have a quarterback right now. I don't believe in Drew Lock right now from what I saw. I don't think he's the guy. I think they do have areas to improve. Von Miller's only getting older. Kareem Jackson's only getting older. AJ Bouye didn't necessarily work out. So there's parts of their team that could regress as well. I just think Denver, they need that quarterback, and then you can change my mind. The Green Bay Packers, they have Aaron Rodgers, who's probably the best quarterback in the game right now. Just won the MVP trophy. I think they are a contender because of him. And Matt LaFleur. I think Matt LaFleur is a very good coach. I think their offensive line will be very good again. They have a lot of young players there too, which will really help. I think they could lose Aaron Jones, but I don't think that will be as big of a loss as some people think. Devontae Adams is a stud. They could improve at wide receiver. They could improve at tight end, in my opinion, add another tight end behind Tonyan. And they could probably get better overall depth-wise on defense, probably get rid of King and get somebody else in their corner, add to their defensive line, add to their linebacking core. I think Green Bay will be once again in the mix in a weak NFC. I see them as a top 3 team right now in February in that NFC. Carolina. I think Carolina is going to take a step forward this year. I like a lot of aspects of their team. I thought a lot of young players showed out this year that really surprised me. You know, some of their draft picks were spectacular this year. I think they have a young core. Christian McCaffrey being healthier will be huge because he's one of the few running backs that actually makes a difference to wins and losses, in my opinion, because of what he does as a receiver. And he's a great playmaker. Curtis Samuel could go, but DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, great dynamic duo at wide receiver. Even with Teddy, they could get better. Offensive line needs a little work. You could use, a couple players on defense, especially in the secondary. But I think Carolina, good coaching staff, culture is in now. It's applied one season. And I think they lost a lot of one-score games that they could learn to win. So I'm going to say Carolina is a borderline playoff team. That is 6 teams in that right now, and we have 6 teams in the playoffs. So right now we have 14 teams that make the playoffs. So I might have to maneuver this around, but at the moment, looking pretty good right now. So Carolina, yeah, I think they got potential. Raiders, they're kind of like Carolina. I think if they stick with Derek Carr, currently their team was a borderline playoff team last year. They missed out on a couple of spots. I think if they can just improve this defense and add maybe another receiver, this team is not just good, but like really good, I think. I think Derek Carr is kind of underrated. I love their offensive line. Josh Jacobs is a solid back. Darren Waller is maybe the most underrated playmaker in the league. The guy is a stud. They have players on defense that I like, but they need more studs. I'm putting the Raiders in the borderline playoff conversation right now because I don't know what their defense is going to look like yet, but if they improve, they'll go higher on this list. The Washington football team currently do not have a quarterback, and I do see a lot of regression from their team. If they expect to roll out the same team they did this year, hopefully they don't do it. I think they played above their heads on defense. They have a lot of talent there, don't get me wrong, but they played above their heads and they carried that team. I think their coaching did a great job this year. It can't do much better, even though it's going to be another year in basically Washington to establish that culture. So there are things that point towards this team moving forward and getting better. And if their quarterback position gets better, they certainly could get better. But I just think this NFC East is kind of lousy. And I see them slightly below New York at the moment. So I'm going to say they're a below average team. I'm not going to say Washington's bad. I'm going to say they're below average. Arizona. Arizona is interesting. I think Arizona is a team that Kyler Murray, borderline top 10 quarterback. If he could take a step forward, they will make the playoffs because he was that close to doing so last year. But I'm concerned about Cliff Kingsbury. I'm concerned about this roster overall. I think it's a lot worse than people think. The offensive line is okay, but nothing special. I think they need to work on their wide receiving core behind DeAndre Hopkins. I think they need to work significantly on that front seven. Chandler Jones will be back, so that's going to be huge for their pass rush. I think the Cardinals are outside looking in right now, at least for now. I'm probably going to have to move a team up into the playoff team situation. But the Cardinals, until they do something about their roster and change some things philosophy-wise from a coaching perspective, I don't see them getting there yet. The Buffalo Bills, I think, are... This one's interesting. I really believe in their front office. I like their coaching staff. But how much better can Josh Allen truly get is the question. They have more holes than you would think, kind of like Kansas City, because of how much that quarterback just makes plays and overcomes bad things like the offensive line, the defense not being great, the run game being non-existent. But then when discussing all those things and how they could improve, they could definitely get better. So I'm going to say that Buffalo is going to be the final contender here on my tier rankings. They are probably the one I'm least confident in because I think there is a lot of room for them to regress just because of how good they were this year. Even though I love them and I love them this year, just the inclination right now at this moment in time, maybe I'm down on them because of recency bias, but it feels like they could regress next year. The Seattle Seahawks, they have Russell Wilson, so they're a playoff team, and I don't see any way around it. I think their defense improved as the season wore on. I think the true question for them is, can their philosophy stay aggressive offensively? Can they continue to trust Russell Wilson? Can they expand the playbook offensively? Can they give him more of a short passing game, more easy plays to basically make and complete? And Seattle, they'll be competitive. They are every year with Wilson, but the true question for them is, are they going to win that elusive Super Bowl that they've been trying to get since they won it in 2013? We're so close in 2014, but since then, they haven't been able to get over the hump in the playoffs. The New York Jets, I think, are going to be absolutely terrible. Unless they get Deshaun Watson, they could be significantly better, but I think they're one of the worst teams in the league right now. Now, they could sign a lot of free agents and get better very quickly, and that's yet to be seen. But when you look at their roster, they're one of the worst in the league. I did not love their coaching hire, although I like it more than Adam Gase. The Jets just have been in their own way for so long that it's hard for me to trust where they're going. Although I will say this, I like what they've done from a front office perspective the last offseason or two. And if that continues with Douglas, then maybe I'll grow just a little bit higher on them. But I don't know. And finally, this is funny that this actually ended up on the New England Patriots. So the Patriots, I think, actually outdid expectations when you consider how bad they were midseason. Like, their roster midseason was atrocious. Like, the worst Patriots roster I've seen in 20 years. Cam didn't exactly work out. Belichick and Josh McDaniels in the coaching staff, I thought was way better than people want to give them credit for this year because of the talent and all the players they were missing due to COVID, due to all the opt-outs. due to the lack of money in free agency, due to losing Tom Brady, all the obstacles they had to overcome. Very challenging. I think New England, the true question is who is playing quarterback. If it's Cam, I actually think they could be better than this year because I think Cam wasn't the biggest problem they had. I think it was the wide receiving core that they need to improve the most and the tight end position. But the question is quarterback. Like, who is it? Is it Cam? Is it somebody else? Is it a draft pick? Is it another veteran out there that they could get? I think the Patriots are a borderline playoff team because they still have arguably the best coaching staff in the league, and they probably will improve significantly on defense. They have a great offensive line, but they have major question marks at wide receiver and quarterback, and those things are holding them back from maybe getting back to the playoffs. So right now, as we tier rank every team here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in the contender tier. Sounds about right. Playoff teams, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 13. So I need to move one team above. Now, in considering which conference it is, I believe it would be the NFC. So in the NFC, we have the Rams, the Packers as the top 2, and Tampa Bay, so top 3. Then you have Seattle as number 4, San Francisco as number 5, Dallas as number 6, and Minnesota as number 7. So it's actually the AFC. Interesting. So borderline playoff teams in the AFC. You have Indianapolis, who made the playoffs, the Raiders, okay, Miami, and New England. So out of those teams, who do I trust the most to make it to the playoffs? I'm going to say Indy. The reason being, I think they have the best front office of all the teams. I think they have the best roster of all the teams. And the only thing they really need is a quarterback and possibly a wide receiver. So I'm going to say Indy is a playoff team, although that is certainly not with a lot of confidence. Those are my tier rankings early, way too early for 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown, this analysis, and this video. If you did, don't forget to Gronk spike that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace.